In a world where AI is reshaping how we think, build, and lead, how do today's boldest leaders stay ahead of the curve? Welcome to Leadership in Flux. I'm Sanjiv Augustine, leadership agility pioneer and creator of the Agile VMO. In this series, I sit down with bold leaders and forward thinking change agents who are reimagining how value is created and delivered in the enterprise. Each episode brings you candid conversations and real world stories about moving from projects to products, building out value management offices or VMOs, and leading at the edge of change. If you're navigating complexity, accelerating through disruption, or building for the future, subscribe now. This is your leadership lab for the age of AI. Good morning and welcome. I'm thrilled and excited and feels extraordinarily privileged to have with us today Jeff Sutherland, who's the co-creator of a Scrum from back in the day and has been doing some exciting work that's going to take us into the future. Looking forward to this conversation. Jeff, thank you for joining us today on Leadership in Flux podcast.
Great to be here and talk to you again.
All right, so we want to keep this brief because we know that people have short attention spans and a lot of things with competing for their attention. So I'm going to start off with the first question, and the first question for you is: you've always emphasized speed and performance right from the beginning, and I can look over your shoulder and see the book doing twice the work in half the time. Um, where is all this leading us today in 2025 with AI tools and cloud platforms?
Well, I think there's always been a certain part of the Agile community that objects to performance. And they usually turn the issue to it's really about the outcomes.
Mhm.
So we now have published a new Scrum expansion pack that expands on the Scrum Guide 2020. And one of the major additions there is to focus more on outcomes.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying to people about speed, we have a local MIT AI startup that's putting out 3 million lines of production code every night. They went from $2 million of revenue to $8 million of revenue in 1 week. They basically sign up everybody they meet with. And so for people who are saying we shouldn't worry about speed,
Mhm.
I think they should worry about having a job, right? Because AI is moving things exponentially faster. And twice the work and half the time today is just putting your toe in the water. Okay.
Mhm.
You have to go much, much faster than that, which, as we point out in the Scrum expansion pack, you need to be monitoring outcomes, the utility, the value, the quality of your product every step of the way. So that speed is uh, translating into revenue, and $2 million to $8 million in 1 week is a good metric.
Awesome. So I did have a couple of follow-up questions, and those are regarding the use of AI tools. I completely get that all of us need to up our game. Certainly, those of us in the Agile community need to focus both on speed, but also on quality. Deming used to say, the path to high speed is through high quality. So that's my first, first of two questions. How can we ensure that as we're incorporating AI, not just as tools, but also as co-facilitators, agents that work along with us, how can we incorporate quality? First question. And then the second thing is the human side of it. As we incorporate these AI tools and AI agents, we know that we can see this happening, that we as humans are probably, possibly more likely going to be losing some agency. So how do we, as the agency of AI rises, how can we ensure that we also keep human agency up in first and forefront?
Okay, before AI, all we have to do is look at what Amazon has done. The last time I was out there training with Amazon, they had over 3,000 Scrum teams, and they were deploying a new version of the product more than 12 times a second
Mhm.
to production. In order to create that harness, to do that, it's a massive test harness, a massive DevOps implementation. that allows them to deploy every story as a developer completes it, running millions of tests, starting to roll it out into production, testing it every step of the way, automatically roll back if there's a problem, and so forth. This is the state of the art today. And for people who worry about, complain about performance, all I have to do is look at Amazon. Are you able to put to production every story that you write today before the day is done? That is the
Mm,
standard delivery cycle. And to get there, you have to have a massive test harness that occurs that automatically ensures extremely high production quality and tests it as it's deploying automatically and rolling it back if it detects any quality problem. Okay, so the quality of that AWS system is so good, almost every company uses it, right?
right, right.
And so that's the state of the art. So we need to be thinking that is our target. Whatever we're doing, we're moving down the road to get as good as that. Now, then how does AI come into the picture? Well, initially, what Amazon did is said, let's use AI to update all the production AWS code. And they calculated they did 1,500 developer years of work in about 3 days, having the AI update the massive billions of lines of code base.
Right.
So that is kind of beginning AI. What I'm publishing actually today is a new chapter in my First Principles in Scrum book on Scrum Sage, the Zen Edition version 2, which is a GPT on OpenAI. It's
Mhm,
public and it's free.
mhm,
And I've had one of the other AIs, Gemini 2.5, do a deep analysis. I've cross-checked it with Grok 4, which just was released yesterday, which is even smarter than Gemini. These are the two smartest AIs right now. And what they pointed out is that Scrum Sage takes Scrum to a new level. By using AI not as a replacement of the human, but as a collaborator
mhm.
with the Scrum Master
Right.
and a coach for the team. So the AI is actually at all the meetings, right? And the AI can weigh in and present its point of view. It's very good at, it remembers everything in Jira that you've ever given it, right? And we know from a human point of view that humans tend to remember just the last few weeks, right? And so their decision making is not as robust it is if they have an AI collaborating with them. But what the AIs are pointing out is that this way of having an AI collaborator with the team changes Scrum from an empirical process that looks at the past and then makes the next best step to an empirical process that's proactive, that the AI is actually looking at the future probabilities and as a coach is guiding both the Scrum Master and the team uh, based on a massive amount of analysis that today as when they launched Grok 4 last night, there was a big podcast on it. They said, this thing is smarter than almost every PhD in everything, right? So the average team will not be as smart as the leading AIs.
Right.
So if you have a co-pilot or a pair programmer, that's one of the best PhD uh, programmers or whatever you're doing, you're just going to get a lot better results. And so that's what I'm advocating. We're not going to replace the human element. What has actually been shown in the World Chess Master and the World Go Master is that humans with AI win over the computer.
Right.
And that's what we're looking at with Scrum Sage.
Awesome. So thank you very much for that clarification and that in-depth analysis. Certainly want look forward to getting to more of this predictive way of working with the AI as our co-pilot. I want to segue into our next question, which is a little bit more about your Scrum expansion pack. You talked about outcomes over outputs, moving more towards outcomes over outputs. What about looking at the role of the product owner? You mentioned the role of the Scrum Master, but
Um,
how does the Scrum expansion pack bring in some new stuff, some new tools for the product owner and maybe a product manager, which I don't know that there is in Scrum?
well, what I've done, what I agreed to work with basically it's the two leading Scrum.org guys that worked with Ken on the last and worked with us at Scrum Inc. on the last release of the Scrum Guide. But they felt, and I agreed, that there are so many questions from Scrum teams about AI and things like that that we need to say something. And we decided we did not want to rewrite the Scrum Guide. It's short and it's good for getting started, but a lot of people need a lot more depth in how to approach it, particularly now with so many changes in the market. And so Scrum Expansion Pack is to address that. And my goal was to get the things that I've been working on into that Scrum Expansion Pack. One of them is the product owner. Uh, One of the things that I have an AI team that I work with every day, in addition to my human Scrum teams. And one of the things that the AI team has been wrestling with is what does the AI really need
Mm,
if it's on a team, particularly with other humans? And there's a lot of proposals, we need a someone who's an orchestrator or this, that, or the other thing. But the AI says no. What we need is a very strong technical product owner,
mm,
someone that understands how we work,
mhm.
give us really strong directions, and not only prioritization of the backlog, we can do a lot of work on helping create the backlog, but in terms of how we work, how we collaborate, how we communicate, the development process we follow, if we're not held to strong discipline, we go off the rails and waste a lot of time for people. So I'm not sure that's fully in the Scrum Expansion Pack, but the Scrum Expansion Pack is going to be updated every quarter. That was another one of my goals. The
Mm,
problem, I've addressed this for years with Ken. We can't have something just be static for years at a time. And the world of Agile, right, is about always kind of incremental updates, right?
right.
So one of my goals was to get the Scrum Expansion Pack team to agree we are going to do quarterly updates, and anybody can make a suggestion, participate in that. So next update, I hope to strengthen this whole idea of a very strong product owner to not only build backlog, actually the AI can take a lot of that work, but to focus the AI on the strategy of the product creation, how it does it, how it collaborates with humans and with other AIs. And I think this is the value of that Scrum Expansion Pack, gets people thinking about the topics that you're raising.
Seems like getting really crisp on the acceptance criteria and almost treating it like prompt engineering, if you will help both the AI and the human teams.
It's moved beyond prompt engineering because, I started working with an AI team to build a product about 2 years ago, and
Mhm.
getting started was really painful. And as the AIs get smarter, I said, look, I don't have any more time to waste on. You guys built me a standard test harness with thousands of tests, and you created more bugs in the test harness than are in the production code. And I've seen that in humans, right? And this is really stupid, and I'm not going to put up with it. So, Mr. AI, there's only one test. The test is here's the input and here's the output we expect.
Mhm.
And if you don't if you don't pass the one test, it's your job to spend as much compute time as you have to fix that and produce bug-free code. I am not wasting any of my time trying to do your work. And so that's the kind of discipline that the AI needs, that you're not going to take any nonsense. You're paying them to do the job. You're paying them to do it right, not to make bugs. And if you don't have someone, managing the AI, it turns out like a team that doesn't work very right. Well,
Yeah.
right. You need some strong leadership to make the team great, and you need the same thing with the AIs.
Great segue into our last question here about leadership, but it seems like in addition to those crisp and tight guardrails, you also need a lot of AI tokens because AI tries to solve the problem itself.
Yeah, well, I have the development. I pay $200 a month for development with OpenAI.
Yeah.
Grok I have is free to me because I have a premium Grok subscription. Um, Gemini 2.5 Pro, which has been the best coding AI recently, is free.
Mm.
Um, so it doesn't cost much. I mean, for the price of 10% of a programmer, you
I
can
was
HD level AI
I was being somewhat
to
facetious.
Copilot.
Yeah. So, about leadership, the world continues to change. We move from the VUCA world to the BANI world, where we're talking about people being brittle, things being brittle and anxious, and all that kind of stuff. So, what advice do you have for leaders? How should people lead in this new environment? How have things changed? And then, what advice do you have for leaders as things change and continue to change?
Yeah. The change is happening so fast. People are saying we've already reached the singularity with AI, which means we can't predict what will happen next week. So, as a leader, what you need to do is you need to have started yesterday. And the first place we started at Scrum Inc. was with the training. Let's put AI in as part of every exercise in the training.
Mm.
And when we did that, people were kind of blown away. They said, "Wow, we didn't know that, the AI could give such a great answer to these questions that you raise in training. You ask a question about what to do with a Scrum problem, and the AI will give you a 12-point project plan, whereas team would have to spend hours to come up with that accurate and comprehensive. When people learned that, they were blown away.
Awesome.
Now, the next step that happened to Scrum Inc. is okay, now that we know that it's useful, how do we actually make it work? And so we had to start training every part of our organization, sales, marketing, finance, consulting, development, and start training them all in making their own GPTs, which you can do with OpenAI, right? You can create your own model,
Right.
and in that model, you can put your own data,
Yeah.
right? So Scrum Sage, the Zen Edition version 2, my GPT has every book that Ken and I have written
Mhm.
as part of it.
Right.
So it remembers stuff that I've forgotten, right?
Right.
It knows every answer that Ken and I have given to anything that we've written down, right? So when you're asking it a question, it's going to give you a
It's a
really
focused answer. It's not searching
right.
all over. Yeah.
So as a leader, you need to start with some basic training, and then you need to start getting people to build GPTs for their specific work that actually add value to their workflow during the day.
Mm.
And 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 then you want to go, the next step is okay, how are we going to uh, let's map out all our workflow for our business, and let's figure out how do we get better automation through AI. And the best companies today uh, are driven by um, Tesla's a good example. Self-organizing teams where everything's made visual. You've got an AI system that's saying, okay, here's here's what's going on. Here's all our problems. Here's all our sales. Here's all our production. Here's the thing we should be focusing on. And that's constantly being updated and analyzed by the AI and is made visible to all these self-organizing teams that self-organize around that output. And at the same time, we're trying to automate everything possible uh, and minimize processes, minimize parts. The best process is no process, and the best part is no part if you're building something, right? So extreme lean manufacturing driven by a lot of AI analysis and let the team self-organize against that analysis
Awesome.
is the future.
Thank you. So if I can summarize those three things, I thought they were great. First is train yourself as a leader. learn everything about AI, then train your team, and introduce them to chatbots and creating their own chatbots, and that can help them with their job. And then maybe even a corollary to that is making sure that we can have some sort of agentic AI, go from chatbots to autonomous agents. But then make sure that in the lean ideal, make all the work visible, make sure then people and teams can swarm to get the work done and keep them aligned and automate everything along the way. Did I
Right.
get that right?
Great summary.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Jeff. As we close out, thank you very much. Anything that you'd like our listeners to know about the work you're doing and keep engaged with how you're doing it?
Well, the basic text is Scrum the art of doing twice the work in half the time. We just did a 10th anniversary update. It's almost double the size. We even started talking about AI in it. And the books I'm working on now are the First Principles in Scrum book, which got so big that I had to move it into three different volumes. And I try to publish a new chapter every week.
Mm.
So one of the volumes is getting updated every week if I'm successful at that.
Thank you for sharing that. Always a pleasure. I've known you for a long time, and I really appreciate you sharing your time with us today.
Yeah. Great to talk with you again. Wish you best.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Leadership in Flux. If today's conversation sparked new ideas or challenged your thinking, I invite you to subscribe and share this episode with your network. To dive deeper into the Agile VMO, the product operating model, or enterprise agility in the age of AI, visit lightspeed.com or connect with me, Sanjiv Augustine, on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep leading at the edge of change.